Hi guys, it's Brenda, and we are here with part 2 of Applied Behavioral and Cognitive Behavioral Frames of Reference at the University of Indianapolis in Applied Occupational Theory. So we are now going to talk about the different aspects of breaking our theory down and understanding it. So this is the analysis part. And we're looking at function and disability. So within all the applied behavior frames of reference, we're looking at the acquisition of adaptive behaviors, and that's the definition of function. It's not about meeting milestones. It's not about occupational competence or any such thing. It's simply about having adaptive behaviors. And what is an adaptive behavior? They're defined by others. They're considered desirable. They might be specific skills that the client has identified as something that they want to master. And it's also about setting behavioral goals and objectives that the person or others want to see that person achieve. Dysfunction is simply a maladaptive behavior, something that you don't want the person to do. In this frame of reference, all the health conditions that a person might have are simply viewed from their external, observable, and measurable consequences. So it's not about what the person interprets it as. It's not about stage of life. It's not about their ability to take in the environment. It's simply about things that you can observe. Did they do the behavior? Didn't they do the behavior? And occupational performance in this frame of reference is always an observable event, something that you can look at. So it doesn't take into account all the things that are going on inside someone's head. Now, change in motivation all occur externally due to reinforcement. So interesting, right? Most of our occupation-based models talk about motivation as being internally driven, and yet this frame of reference says that it's external, that it's all about the reinforcement that comes externally. And so an occupational therapist needs to understand what external rewards give a person that motivation. Now, a person can also have internal rewards, so don't get me wrong on that. A person can simply be satisfied with their performance, and that's enough of a reinforcement for them, okay? So internal rewards actually work better for individuals with greater maturity who are at a higher level, and it's also more sustainable then. So those self-produced consequences are usually the most effective. Now here on this slide we have a picture of Hank, who is Lori's dog, and Lori would reinforce Hank's behavior by petting him only when he was sitting down with his legs on the floor, rather than jumping up and down on her. So she would work on extinguishing his maladaptive behavior of jumping and encouraging his adaptive behavior of sitting on command, through her reinforcement of praise and petting that she would give him. So with this frame of reference, there are a number of evaluations and assessments that can be completed. Oftentimes they're in the form of questionnaires, but oftentimes they also just come in the form of simply identifying problem behaviors, identifying the skills that you want this person to acquire. Remember the acquisitional frame of reference with Ann Mosey. And also identifying what the positive reinforcers are. And that's the gist of what it means in applied behavioral to treat someone, to evaluate and treat someone, is identifying these aspects. So then you have to look at what are the behavioral goals. Sometimes they're long-term, but they also need to be easily recognizable. So like for you, graduating from OT school is a long-term and easily recognizable goal. And then there are objectives, which are the shorter term steps for getting there, like finishing the paper assignment that you have for this class for this semester. It's a short term objective to get you toward the longer term goal of graduating from OT school. And then intervention is all about using those reinforcers that you've set up, teaching through shaping and chaining and other forms of reinforcement. You can also use some things that are talked about in our book, such as behavioral contracts, to get the client to buy in. And then these last three on this slide are kind of starting to lean toward the cognitive behavioral realm of things: relaxation training, systematic desensitization, and biofeedback strategies. All are ways of using some internal reinforcement to change behaviors, but also kind of leaning into changing thoughts, which lead to behaviors, which takes us into the cognitive behavioral realm, which is where we're going to head next. So for this segment, what I would like you to do is think about how you've used applied behavior on somebody else. Remember how I said at the beginning that you've probably used this frame of reference more than you realized, and we all maybe have tried to encourage someone else to do something that we desired out of them, or to get them to stop doing something that we don't like. What type of reinforcement did you use in order to do that? For example, in our picture here, we have this little girl in the grocery store who's acting out. She's screaming and throwing a fit. And I actually made this PowerPoint around the time that I had a Target run where there was a child misbehaving in the store. And the mom was like, stop it, stop it. And then up came the dad, grabbed a toy out of the cart and said, okay, toy's going back. And the little girl just straightened up immediately. I'll be good, I'll be good. And dad's like, nope, toy is gone. So he used that kind of reinforcement. What kind of reinforcement do you think he used? I think he was extinguishing her behavior by not providing the reinforcement when she was exhibiting about a maladaptive behavior.